Because once you start having sex, things change. Like your whole perspective and everything that you think changes about that person. Mistakes, because these are some of the things that you can kind of look for. Some common mistakes when dealing with romantic relationships. Number one, listening to other people instead of yourself. A lot of people have a lot of opinions about what your relationship should be like, and a lot of people want to tell you what romance should be.
Right.
But you need to listen to yourself, because those relationships, those things are going to be different for you. The way our relationship works is different than the way other people's relationships work.
Right. Yeah. But I think that's different than listening to wise counsel, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You can listen to people, because even with listening to adults or not adults, but listen to older folks or people that have been married for a long time, is you take what you can use from what they say
in your relationship,
right? And then you move forward. But you can't just cookie cut somebody else's relationship on yours.
No, and I was watching a podcast and they said that like marriage relationships or relationships that are in the period of courtship or relationships moving towards more romance, they said those relationships are like fingerprints. And you know that fingerprints, no one has the same fingerprint.
Right.
But what you can do is you can take some things and apply them to your relationship, but knowing that your relationship isn't going to look like anybody else's.
Right. Yeah, some stuff is going to be universal, but I mean, you don't have to make mistakes that everybody makes. But you do need to figure out what's going to work for you.
Right.
Right. So mistake number one, listen to other people instead of yourself. You still have to listen to yourself. Mistake number two, focusing on physical intimacy in place of spiritual connection. Yeah. So in that time when you're dating and trying to figure out whether or not this is a good person that you would be friends with, you also want to figure out whether or not this is someone that you can live with, right? You can your thoughts and your beliefs about how you're supposed to live and work and move align. They don't have to be exactly the same. Like you're not going to think exactly the same because you're different people, but figuring out whether or not your thought processes align. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
But not necessarily being compatible. Like he works from 11 to 6 and I work from 7 to 11.
Right.
Not like that.
Right. Now we want to be talking about more on a more substantive level, spiritually. Like for Christians, we'll say whether or not they are a believer. One of the first things that we recommend that Christians do is find out if the person that you're interested in believes the same way that you do.
Right.
Right. Now, if you're not a Christian and you have there's going to be some other things that are important to you that you want to make sure that they line up with. Right. Because it's interesting, like you have this time of dating and courtship, and then we watch a lot of shows and reality, some reality, but some TV shows too. And people don't find out until they're days from being married whether or not the other one wants to have children.
Right.
Whether or not they want to live in another state. These are like basic conversations.
Right.
I think we talked about that day too.
Right. So, we talked about a lot.
No, we talked about a lot after you.
I want to know.
After you cooked for me. Right. And then the last and final mistake that people make, one of the mistakes that people make during this process is just sex.
Sex?
Yeah. Because once you start having sex, things change. Like your whole perspective and everything that you think changes about that person. Good or bad, you've opened yourself up in a way.
If the fullness of life could be found in sexual stimulation, or if it was just a matter of making babies, the forget formality and just have sex approach might temporarily satisfy cravings and cause enough conception to have kids. But God had much more in mind with romance than orgasms or even procreation. And so should we, so must we.
Love it.